Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gwen and today I'm going to talk about my physical TBR books. As always, before we get started, just a reminder that down below there are links to donating, helping, and protest information about Black Lives Matter. So today I wanted to talk about the books that I have on my TBR. I mostly read only physical books. Actually, that's all I read. Is physical books. With ebooks and audio, I actually don't have anything against them. It's just I don't go that route ever. I am not saying one is better over the other. I'm just saying this is how I read books. You might have noticed in the background of my videos that I usually have a stack of books right here, and there's usually a stack of books just behind me. Those are my TBR books, and I just wanted to go through as to why I have all of these books on my shelves. There's a lot, so I'll try to be fast with this. I don't know if I'm going to say all the summaries because I actually don't know all the summaries. I'm just gonna go off of what I heard that made me interested in the book, and that's why it's on my TBR. The first two books are mass paperback editions. I actually favor this size a lot. These are just lighter, and I do have issues with weight on my back. So these are my preferred. The 1,000 Names by Django Wexler is one. I think for both of these, they were not next to each other because this one is The Last Stormlord by Glenda Lark. So I haven't heard anyone talk about this series or this series on BookTube. I've heard people reference 1,000 Names on their TBR, but no one talking about it, and I have not heard anyone talk about The Last Stormlord. The Last Stormlord sounds like there's one last one and he has to figure out whether he's going to be the last Stormlord or teach somebody. And 1,000 Names sounded more of like more campaigning and more war. So kind of excited for both of these, but also haven't heard enough, so I'm a little bit cautious when picking these up and starting to read them. Okay, this one I don't think is a surprise, but it's a surprise for me. I normally read only adult fantasy, so when I branch out I get really nervous about it, like extremely. And this is going to be one of them. This is by V.E. Schwab, Vicious. V.E. Schwab has a lot of readers that love her work very, very dearly. This one I believe is supposed to be only a duology, and the reason why I'm interested in it is because it's a villain story. So it's about how someone becomes a villain or both characters become villains. Again, I'm not entirely sure, but one of the reasons why I'm nervous about picking this up and reading it is because I believe it's in our world, meaning that it's low fantasy / urban fantasy, and that is definitely not one of my favorites, but I'm intrigued by the plot. So nervous but excited. We'll see when I pick this up. The next two that I want to talk about are in the same genre, I'm pretty sure, which is YA fantasy. Now, I am not a person who likes YA in general. And so these two books have been talked about very highly, and the only thing I've seen is that they do have insta love in them, and that's what makes me nervous about reading them, because I don't want to use the word hate, but I just really don't like insta love. And it's throughout so much of YA fantasy books that it gets me so annoyed. It's not realistic. I love me a slow burn romance. The two books that I'm talking about are Scythe and Children of Bone. Again, you guys have probably heard about these two a lot, whether that's Children of Blood and Bone, I think from a few years ago, and Scythe has been a lot more recently since it was just completed the trilogy. This one is still, the second one's out, I know, but I don't know how many are supposed to be in the series. I think it's a trilogy. So I'm going to try. I'm gonna try. I've heard other people talk about it, and the people that I agree with when they rate books and what they talk about, what they don't like about books, have rated both of these books pretty high. So that's why I want to try them out. Scythe was described as focusing around death. Both of the POVs are trying to become Scythe people, so that's pretty cool. And then Children of Blood and Bone is about how a world used to have magic, and unfortunately that magic has disappeared due to someone in great power saying like, no, we don't want that anymore, and the POV's mother gets killed because of that, and then from there I believe we follow what happens. Both of these synopsises, or just the direction that the plot is supposed to go, are really interesting to me. I just hope the YA doesn't ruin it for me. Here's to hoping it works out. So next books to talk about, we have got The Black Prison by Brent Weeks. A lot of people have read this first book and have various amount of differences with how they felt about this book. I have read Brent Weeks before. I did not have a good time reading his first trilogy, and so when this series finished this year, actually, I decided that there'd been enough time if I wanted to pick up his newest series and try it out. So I've just heard that the magic system is really interesting in this book, and that throughout the series his writing gets better and the story becomes more full rather than from the first book. So a lot of people say don't judge the first book for the entire series. So yeah, maybe I'll read this book soon. Okay, next one. I have talked about this book already in a tag because this book has been the longest on my TBR for the reason that it is not finished, and currently there is still not a date for the last book, The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. What I know about the story is that it is a character that is explaining his story. And that's as much as I know about it. I don't know how much of it deals with magic. I don't know if this guy is good, bad, but everyone said and has said that it's a very, very well done book and second book. But that third one still doesn't have a publication date. So that's why I've been holding off on reading this one. Okay, so the next book that I want to talk about is The Soul of the World. So this book, I just remember I picked it up off the shelf because I thought it was intriguing. And then about a month ago, I looked up to see if the series was over, meaning if it was published all the way through or not, and it's still not. So I haven't read it yet. There looks to be 3 POVs in here, 2 of them being female, 1 of them being male, and lots of magic, lots of battles, and intrigue. So I don't know when I will get to this, but hopefully soon. So the next book, this is actually a recent purchase that I made, and I didn't realize how small this book was. So I'm unsure if it's technically a novella or if it's book. Because the amount of pages. I'll probably put on the screen what novella means, and then if it fits it, it doesn't, and if it does, it does. The Sorcerer of the by Kai Ashante Wilson. I picked this book because there's a secondary or a novella off of this story that deals with a relationship that happens in here, and so I was intrigued by that, but I wanted to start with the first book in the series. I didn't realize though how tiny it is. It's only 212 pages. But I'm just excited. This one talks about demigods and being in human form, what they will do to the world based on what they know and what their powers are, or sorcerers as they're called. I'm excited. I am intrigued, but also very sad that it is short. I'm always a lover of books that are 400 pages and over. The next series that I have on my TBR is The Witcher. Why do I always sing The Witcher? I always do. This has kind of just been on my TBR for so long, and I still have no idea when I'm getting to it. But I know I would enjoy it. That's the problem. In case you were not aware, the series follows a guy named Geralt of Rivia who is a witcher, which is why the series is called The Witcher. And all the turmoils in, I think it's called the Northern Kingdoms where most of this happens. At least from the video games, it's called the Northern Kingdoms. So, but there's at least 6 books in this, maybe 7 now. I forget if The Last Wish, I think Last Wish is considered 0.5, so maybe there are 7 books. But a lot of people say these are really fast to go through because there's a lot of dialogue more than descriptive paragraphs. I just know I would enjoy the series, and yet I still have not read it. This is another recent purchase. I saw someone talking about this on Goodreads, and then I saw someone talking about it in their mid-year book tag, and I'm so sorry, I can't remember who I was watching that talked about this. They talked about The Shadow of What Was Lost, and this is a trilogy. It was either completed this year at the beginning or at the end of 2019, and I'm very interested. It deals with a magic system that I'm very intrigued by. So excited to jump into it. I heard some good reviews on it, and I'm intrigued. The next one I want to talk about is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This one I'm super excited to dive into, and I think it'll be the next book I read because I keep on hearing so many people talk about how much they love this series trilogy. I just need to jump in soon, and I know the 3rd book is coming out this November. This book I don't know much about. I know it's a lot. There's a lot of war elements into it, but other than that, I know nothing. I mean, it does say in the synopsis that she is a goddess. I'm intrigued. I'm ready to deep dive into this. Let's go. So yeah, very excited to start reading this very, very soon. And last but certainly not least, we have another N.K. Jemisin book. This one I have wanted to read for a while, but I never had it physically, I never bought it. And then I finished the Broken Earth trilogy, and I was like, we gotta read this one now. So this is The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. The reason why I was super intrigued about reading this series was because it's a girl just thrown into being an heiress and the struggles around that. And clearly the 100,000 kingdoms, that's a lot. That's a lot of kingdoms to have control over. So I'm very interested, and hopefully soon I will pick this up and start reading it. So thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know which books I should read first. Definitely The Poppy War is going to be the next book, but let me know if any of the other books on my TBR should be after that. As a reminder, links below to helping Black lives and donation links, GoFundMes, and petitions to sign are linked down below, so go do that if you can. My social media links are all down below if you want to follow me anywhere else, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!